Hello! Today, I want to talk about covering tattoos with makeup. So, I wanted to make this video for a while, even like before I had a channel. I wanted this video to be out there in the world because so frequently people think that you could just cover a tattoo with makeup in like one step. And that's just simply not the case. Even when you see tattoos being covered on people like I think her name's Amber Rose, or even Jeffree Star and other like celebrities that are covered in tattoos, and you've seen them be covered, they look like they're wearing makeup. And that's fine because I mean, for the Grammys and award shows, all celebrities are wearing a full bodysuit of makeup. That's why they look so damn good. And that's fine, but for the day-to-day people, and even for film and television, that cannot be the thing. You can't just look like you're wearing makeup on a random body part and that be realistic. Your skin has different tones all throughout it. Certain people's skin, you can see their veins going through it. Or like on my hands, or even all over my body, I kind of have like little red dots here and there. Mostly I see them on my thighs and like the palms of my hands. And so a lot of people have this, and even like if you get red in some areas, or maybe you have discoloration, or even just age spots, any of those things, it's going to be a dead giveaway that you're wearing makeup in a specific area. If you're not modeling the skin with makeup, it's just gonna look fake. And then that raises the question of what's under that? And so now you've just made an ineffective tattoo cover, because now you're still gonna have that question. And on top of that, once that area gets wet or any kind of friction, whether it be clothing or you wash your hands, like in my case, I covered my thumb tattoo, and if you wash your hands, that's pretty much over. In my case, that won't be the case because I used alcohol-based paints, but that's not always the case when people want I think it's called like Dermablend. When I used to work at Ulta all the time, people would come in and be like, what can I cover XYZ with? I had a woman that had an ex-fiance's name tattooed from shoulder to shoulder on her chest, which obviously poor decision making in the first place, but also she thought that I could cover it with makeup. And granted, I did, but it didn't look good. Like, it still looked like she had 10 pounds of makeup on her chest, and if she touched her chest, it was over. And then I remember she didn't buy it that day. Like, she didn't buy the product that I showed her. And then she came in the next day, and another sales rep or makeup artist, whatever you want to call them, she showed her the exact same product, and she couldn't get it to cover because she used it the way it's intended to be used. I put it on so thick. If I touched it, my fingerprint would have been in her skin. So, it's just not practical. And I think it's really dumb when people think they'll just get that tattoo anyway, even though realistically, whether it be their career or their life, like their family life, or whatever it is, their religious beliefs, regardless, they can't have that tattoo. They'll just get it anyway and say, oh, I'll just cover it with makeup. Like, that's just not the case. So, in this video, I wanted to show you how to do a more accurate skin cover or tattoo cover. But I also want you to just understand how difficult it is and how costly it is. Every palette that I used in this video was a minimum of $55. The most expensive one I have there, I believe, is $85 or $90. For some tattoos, especially when you get like one of those cute little dainty ones, that could potentially be more expensive than the tattoo you just got. So I got it here. So I'm gonna watch along. And basically, when covering a tattoo, I analyze the tattoo first. Analyze your skin tone. Really think about it. What colors do you actually see in your skin? Because you're gonna see blues, you're gonna see yellows, and you're gonna see pinks and reds, and depending on your skin tone, you're gonna see, you know, other colors in between that. And then obviously we're gonna have our more neutral tones. But are you more of like a pinky pale like I am, or are you more of like an olive beige? More people are olive than they are pink. I know, so like I'm not the best example, but think about that before you do this coverage, because you're gonna have to mimic that with the makeup we apply. All right, so let's start the video. You can see that I am color correcting still, and I tried to be really precise with this, but even my smallest brush was a little too thick for the lines. So I wanted to just cover the black in my tattoo with kind of a corally beige. So the reason I did that was because oftentimes orange, well, so obviously the complementary colors of orange would be blue. So usually a black ink is either a green base or a blue base, and generally just darker colors will be corrected with an orange based like skin tone. So that's what I'm trying to do here, but my brush was just too big, so eventually I just kind of went over the entire tattoo, which you'll see in a few more seconds. And then here you can see that I'm actually cleaning up around the tattoo. Any of the coral that I got on my skin color and not on the tattoo color, I'm removing. I've sprayed alcohol. So this is 99% alcohol. And I just sprayed that on the bristles, and then I'm just cleaning it around almost like you would if you were painting your nails and with a cleanup brush. I'm doing that essentially just around the tattoo. I'm okay with it being on my true skin in between, like the actual lines of ink, so like within the tattoo, the skin breaks. I'm not really too concerned with those, even though if you could get more precise with it, that would be ideal. But it's such a small, tight area that it was kind of too difficult, and it would have been too much of a time waster. So now you can see that I'm color correcting the red in my tattoo. And so what I did was I tempered some green into a skin tone that matched mine. And I just put a little bit of green in it, because if you just put green, and even the coral, I could have mixed that more. I could have tempered that into a skin tone, and I probably would have had an easier time color correcting the whole thing if I did tempering, as opposed to just block of color, because then you're just gonna have to cover that block of color with something that's able to cover it. And at that point, you might as well just use the really thick coverage skin tone, because it's not going to cover the coral all the way, and it's not going to cover the green all the way. But I know red and coral can at least appear naturally in your skin, where green is a little less likely unless you're really old. So, and by old I mean like in your 80s, like you have age spots and other things. Now you can see that I'm using a stipple brush, and this is a brush that I mash up into the table to get it like as spiky as possible. You don't want to see any harsh lines. So I'm almost trying to create dots here. And what dots are gonna do is just help blend your real skin with the tattoo cover. So I'm kind of like when you're actually doing a cover up with a tattoo, it's gonna end up being bigger than the original tattoo. So I'm just kind of stippling here and there, and I'm adding my skin tone now. And I used the lightest version of my skin tone, and you can see it appear in my skin in some areas. And so I'm just stippling that first just to make sure that I'm able to cover my tattoo. And now here you can see that the skin tone wasn't enough to cover, so I'm color correcting again. And this is just a mistake on my part. It's been a while since I've covered tattoos, so it's kind of just me putzing around, trying to figure out what would work best. Here you can see that I'm now using like a shitty paintbrush. And this paintbrush is actually intentionally cut really short, and this is so I could do more stippling action. This is so I can create more dots faster, and there's many techniques on how to do this. The stipple brush that I was using before is a great option, but I feel like using the flecking brush works a lot better. The only problem is I'm doing all of this tattoo cover with my left hand, which is my non-dominant hand. So I'm like trying desperately to like get it to flick properly. And if I ever show you a different way of covering tattoos, if I cover somebody else's tattoos or even on my left side, you'll see it would work a lot better than it does here. But it definitely still works. I just made a much bigger mess than I would have normally, and I probably wouldn't have had to go in so many different times if I was able to be more precise. Here you can see that my tattoo actually looks covered, but the problem is it looks covered on camera, but it doesn't look covered in person, and it definitely needed to be it definitely needed yellow addition inside there. It definitely looked a little ashy, and you can see like a lot of red being very prominent, and you could still kind of vaguely see the tattoo. Not so much that you could see the tattoo itself, but you can see where I covered the tattoo, if that makes any sense. Like, you could see that there was definitely reds under there and things like that. You see me go back in a few times with a few different brushes, and that was because I was using, again, my non-dominant hand. I kind of flecked too much yellow, and it became too overpowering on the yellow side. So I just tried to go back in, and I used a bigger fluffy brush, and this is like my magic blending brush. This brush blends anything and everything you need it to blend out. So I use this for eyeshadow, I use this for foundation, I use it for concealer, I use it for literally everything, including special effects. So I just used it to tap out some of the yellow because the alcohol is still drying, and if you get it up just at the right time, you can kind of dilute it without ruining it. And then here, you can see that I'm just cleaning up my watch and things. Basically, I wanted to look like at a distance, because sometimes when you look at things too close, no matter how good it looks or how bad it looks, you can't really tell anymore, because you've just been staring at it for too long in the exact same angle. So I just wanted to clean off my watch that was covered in all that splatter paint, and then I wanted to cover my nail, because obviously that would be a dead giveaway if you had all this color speckled all over your nails and all over your watch. So I just wanted to, I used rubbing alcohol. And by the way, I'm using 99% alcohol. 70%, which is your average drugstore alcohol, would not work. You can see here that I'm just kind of like taking a moment and looking at it, and I'm analyzing it and trying to figure out what exactly it needs. And you can see a very clear line of demarcation of where my splatter kind of ends. And I actually couldn't see that. I can see it here on the video. But it's definitely a little too yellow, and it's a little too light, but definitely too yellow. That is what I'm seeing here the most. And if you're wondering why all those tissues are everywhere, it's because I realized how big of a mess I was making with my alcohol paints, so I was trying to prevent my keyboard from like being forever stained. Because 99% alcohol is really harsh. So like I wouldn't want like the letters of the keys to wipe off while I'm trying to wipe off the paint. Here, I'm kind of editing the color. I analyzed it, and even my boyfriend was kind enough to point out where you can see like the biggest harsh line, which is basically like where my thumb meets my palm. And so I'm working on that. You can see like me flipping my hand a little bit here and there. And at this point, I'm attempting to skin model, and skin modeling is just me trying to mimic the coloration of my skin that appears naturally with makeup. And so I'm trying to like do little wiggly lines of red and little wiggly lines of blue, because you can see my veins through my skin, and you want your skin to still appear translucent, because skin is translucent. That's why a lot of times we use silicone prosthetics, because those are the most realistic. However, those are also the most expensive. So those are like true budget films, not budget films, high budget films. I don't know, like the multi-million-dollar films. Those use silicone prosthetics if necessary. Kind of just a game at this point, going back and forth between blending and skin modeling and color correcting. I'm just kind of going back and forth until I'm achieving the right translucency that I want to see. Honestly, I'm not the most happy with this cover. This was as good as it was going to get. If I kept layering it, it would have just gotten too thick and would have just been a waste of time, honestly. So I just decided I'm gonna set it. So I use a setting spray, and I use the Ben Nye setting spray. I believe it's called the matte setting spray. It's honestly not matte at all. It makes everything really shiny. So I spray it. It smells really minty, and it's really nice actually. And then I let that dry for the most part. There were still some shiny bits. And then I put my translucent powder, and that was an RCMA powder. So again, that just adds to the cost. And here I'm just cleaning off my watch again, just doing like basic cleanup, making sure that like our final product will look like my hand, hopefully. So I'm just trying to take a step back again. And that's it. That's the whole thing. So yeah, that's how it came out. I think it came out pretty good. I've been sitting with this for probably, I want to say like an hour since I covered it initially. I do think it looks better now than it looked when I first applied it. And I think once I added the powder, it was really a saving grace, because the powder is slightly beigey pink tone. So once I added that on top, I feel like that was like the final touch that it needed. And of course, mattifying it. Our skin isn't usually shiny, at least not that shiny. So you just kind of want to match whatever you've got going on everywhere else. But also powdering anything is going to make it last just that much longer. And it'll like appear better on camera. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like this video, please like this video, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Goodbye!
How much do you think you spent on just doing this video? Like in money? Round down.
$250.